My top MCAT scoring clients use these techniques to manage fatigue on test day. Number one, have you ever had that experience where you're reading a passage and you get to the bottom and you think, what did I just read? That's actually really common and there's a way to fix that. The problem is that when you're studying, oftentimes you're sitting there and grinding yourself into the ground until your brain literally can't keep up with what you're trying to ask it to do. Which is why I teach them to use the Pomodoro method when they're studying, which means they lock in for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, however many minutes, but they're not allowed to lose focus. When they lose focus, they have to stop. And you take a break. And what that trains you to do is constantly be in a brain state where you're being really effective with your time. You learn not to ignore the fatigue. And what that trains you to do is that when you're taking a full-length exam, you're able to recognize when fatigue is happening, stop, close your eyes, take some breaths, and get back into it. People think that wastes your time, but actually it makes sure that you are not wasting your time by trying to do more questions when you're fatigued. The second thing I tell them to do is make sure that you're sleeping the way that you're gonna sleep on test day many weeks in advance. Because your circadian rhythm controls more than just sleep, it also has to do with when you're cognitively sharp. By training your body to function in the time constraints you're going to be under on test day, you're getting yourself ready to sustain that focus. Even going beyond the sleep, learning what you're gonna eat the night before a test, the morning of a test, in the breaks of a test, having a routine for what you're gonna do in the breaks between sections, all of these things really help you stave off that fatigue and stay focused when you're answering the questions. This third thing is kind of huge. A lot of the time, people are wasting time on the MCAT because what they're doing is they're reading the passage, reading the question, and then answering the question, but then going back and trying to justify why all the other answers could be right, and then they're freaking themselves out and wasting a ton of cognitive energy. The actual task you're trying to use on the MCAT is, how do I read something, make a decision, and commit to it? It might seem counterintuitive, but when you're practicing questions, you want to be quick. The cognitive task of quick appraisal is different than the cognitive task of sitting there and deliberating. So get better at the task of actually answering it quickly, trusting your first judgment and making that first judgment more accurate by having systems for how to review the passages, the questions, and all of that stuff. That last one can be the hardest to train people to do, but when they get it, their score goes way up. Do me a favor and leave a comment telling me what is the hardest part of the MCAT for you. That way I know what videos to make next.